Hey guys, welcome to my channel again. Today I'm going to make a video on blockchain technology and understand the relationship with Bitcoin. So first, this is not an investment advice video. I want to put that as a disclaimer first. Let's understand blockchain. So blockchain was initially created to implement a system wherein a document timestamp that could not be tampered with. So this was used as a core component in Bitcoin, where it serves as a public ledger for recording all the transactions that is available publicly on the network. So it's a publicly distributed digital ledger. By that, it means that all the component or the computer in the network, they have this digital ledger that is distributed among themselves, and it records existence of a digital asset. It's immutable. That means any record that is added to the blockchain cannot be modified, and it's secured with cryptographic hashing. So, as I explained earlier, blockchain is a distributed ledger technology that works with blocks, or block is basically a data or transaction details. And its primary use case was Bitcoin, which is the first decentralized currency. So let's look at the important components of blockchain. The first one is block. So block is a data or transaction info. So each block has a 32-bit randomly generated number called nonce. Nonce stands for number used only once. So that 32-bit randomly generated number in turn generates 256-bit block header hash. So that specific 256 block header hash is the identifier for each block with each new transactions. So with that 256-bit hash, there are 4 billion possible combinations. So what happens when a new transaction happens or a new block is generated? Each block has the details of previous hash, its data, current data, and then the nonce, which is a randomly generated 32-bit number. So using all these three information, nonce generates a cryptographic hash, and that specific hash is the digital signature for that block. And every it's unique to every input, and it is tied to that nonce. The second important component of blockchain is miners. So miners are responsible for creating a new block on the chain. So miners, they use their sophisticated hardware to run an algorithm to find the golden cryptographic hash, or we call it golden nonce, for the block. So once they determine, or once whoever determines the golden nonce first, then that block will be added to the chain, and the one who determines it will be rewarded with cryptocurrency. So let's talk about the idea of making change to the block. So for instance, there is already a block with multiple block in it. So if anyone wants to make a change to the second block in that blockchain, how difficult it is, because he just cannot make change in the second block. He or she has to make change to the third block, fourth block, and so on, because every block is tied to the previous hash, right? And then every block, the last block or the latest block, will have information about all the other blocks. So it's really difficult. That's why finding the golden nonce as the blockchain gets bigger and bigger takes more compute power and time. So basically miners, they have their own set of sophisticated hardware that runs an algorithm to determine the nonce value for the block or the newly created block. And that nonce value is a mathematical puzzle that these miners have to solve in order to generate that hash, which is less than the target value. So that is the accepted criteria. It has its own set of criteria, which I'm not going to discuss in depth on this video, but just understand that the work of the miner or the hardware is to determine the value of the block hash. So once that golden nonce is generated, it validates the transaction, and then it gets added to the ledger. The one who successfully validates the transaction will receive award. And the third important component is nodes. So nodes are basically any devices, it can be like PC or any other electronic devices in the network of blockchain that maintains the public copy. So every node has their own copy of blockchain, and the network must approve that newly mined block for the chain to be updated. So basically, it's a public decentralized ledger. So let's repeat in short. A block has a new data or transaction details, and miners are supposed to run an algorithm to determine the cryptographic hash of that block, and nodes are supposed to keep the information or record in a public ledger, and that is distributed across all the nodes in a blockchain network. So let's understand how transaction gets into the blockchain. So for instance, a transaction is requested by user A to user B. He wants to send some Bitcoin to user B. Then first step is that transaction is requested, a block is created with all those data details, and the nonce that generates a random bit number, and with the combination of the new data, the previous hash, and the randomly generated number, a new cryptographic hash is generated, wherein all the participating miners or the computer hardwares, they have to do the validation. So they have to solve a complex mathematical equation to verify that cryptographic hash, and whoever determines the right hash, they will in turn get the Bitcoin. That is the reward for this proof of work. So all this validation process is called proof of work. So once that is validated, a new block is added to the existing blockchain, and that is updated. That update is distributed across the network of computers, and so every last block that is added, it records the most recent Bitcoin transaction that have not entered the prior blocks. But since block is linked to the past block, it has all the details about the past transactions as well as the present transactions. So in this way, a transaction is complete. So we say transaction is complete, but transaction in itself is a complex process. The first step is authentication, wherein cryptographic keys is given to access to the wallet on the system. So every user has that cryptographic key with which they can access their system, and every user has their own set of private and public keys which are used to generate the digital signature. The second step is authorization. So first step, transaction is made, right? And how is that authorized? The two user agree transaction, and the nodes or computers in a network of blockchain, they must agree that it is valid. So first come first serve basis, hardware that determines the right hash is going to get the reward, and that validation has to be done by every other nodes in the network. Once that validation is done, then the network who correctly validated the network hash or the block hash is rewarded by giving the cryptocurrency. So this process is called proof of work. So in proof of work, to add one block to the chain, computer has to solve the complex mathematical problem. So this process of solving the correct mathematical problem, or to get the right golden nonce hash, is what mining is. So whenever someone says they are mining some cryptocurrency or they are mining Bitcoin, that means that they have set up the complex hardware with all the computational powers with high GPUs and all, to determine or to run an algorithm to determine the value of the hash, or to determine the right cryptographic hash, so that they can be rewarded in turn for validating that hash. So it requires a lot of compute power, as I already said. So that means is the blockchain gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the difficulty level in determining the cryptographic hash becomes more difficult. So that means more computational power, more time to detect the correct value of the cryptographic hash. So that means more electricity consumption factors comes into play, which you have been hearing in the news lately. So let's see what the traditional currency transaction happens, or how the currency transaction happens. Suppose you are a guy that is living in any part of the world, for instance say in Canada, and you want to send some dollars to some family members through the bank in other geographical location. So this has to go through the bank, you have no other way, and then bank takes like multiple days to do the transaction, and bank in turn acts as a third party and takes some commission from the money that you are sending. So if you are wishing to send $100, then your family is not going to receive $100, right? So some of the commission is taken in midway. This is how the traditional banking works. But how can this problem be solved? So by problem I mean not giving the commission to the third party and being able to send it instantly. So Bitcoin solves this issue. How? Because you have your own online wallet where you store your money or your Bitcoin, and that wallet is not tied to any bank, and you have complete control over your personal wallet. And you don't need a bank or any permission from bank to move it. You don't have to worry about any third party taking it away. You don't have to worry about any government economic policy manipulating it. And so Bitcoin was one of the few blockchain technologies use cases, and research has been ongoing to make sure that this blockchain technology, which is so secured, which cannot be tampered with, which is immutable, to be used in other use cases. So it's basically an exchange of trust and values, and when you have some security over the trust, exchange of trust and values, then that get hit instantaneously. That's why Bitcoin is one of the most popular technological blockchain is one of the popular technology, and Bitcoin is one of the most popular cryptocurrency these days. So how to own Bitcoin is, this is not a financial advice lesson, but I'm just giving you some tips on if you want to own Bitcoin, how you can own it. You can open an account on Bitcoin network, on any Bitcoin network, and buy it, or the second solution would be to mine it and in turn gets the reward. But now the mining process takes so long, and a simple personal computer would not be able to solve this problem. So for that, I think they have a solution. They have a network pool where you can add your PC. If you have a single PC or single piece of hardware, you can add that to the network pool, and that can be combined. So all the computers in a network pool are combined together, as if you have a big giant infrastructure. And if your pool is able to determine the correct hash, then all the distribution of reward is going to take place between all the members of the pool. So that's it for today's lesson. If you really like my video and if you want me to cover some additional topics, please put in the comment and like and subscribe my channel so that I can grow. Thank you.